fool me. I will wait.
You're listening to Grace, Geltman, and Weld on the Hammer Factor. Take it away, boys.
I can't believe we've done this 26 times.
Yeah.
I get email now every day from customers talking about the Hammer Factor. Not a day goes by where I don't get an email from a customer that doesn't mention Hammer Factor.
Yeah, I got cornered in the bar about it multiple times at North Fork.
How did that go?
That's fine. It's like, yeah, it's fun.
let's start with that. All right, because I have a few questions regarding that.
All right. Well,
oh man, I don't even want to know. Yeah,
let's light this candle.
all right. Welcome to Hammer Factor, issue number 26. My name is John Grace, and I want to thank you for listening. Want to introduce my co-host here. One of them, Lewis Geltman, North Fork champion, North Fork racer this year, policy director for the Outdoor Alliance. Lewis,
I retired this year.
You retired?
I did, or at least for a year. Yeah, my shoulder is just not up for it these days, man. I don't know. We can talk about the North Fork race in a bit for sure, but I did not race this year.
Before we get on to our other co-host, I want to give Lewis some props here. Adam Atarian, hat tip to Adam Atarian. After 24 episodes of hearing about it on the Hammer Factor, I finally made a contribution to Outdoor Alliance. How about that, buddy?
All right.
Made my day, man. Seriously.
24 episodes, one listener. How many hours did it take?
Let's just take this piece of good news for what it is. Appreciate it. I'm happy that anyone listened to me describe the work we do and was not like, who is this mumbly bro-bron? I can't believe he has employment.
Not only that, he got promoted.
Get my money to NPCA.
Well, anyway, I figured that'd be a good bit of news to share. Thank you, Adam Atarian.
Yeah,
also, co-host John Weld, Whitewater legend, co-owner of Immersion Research. What's up, and where are you at today? Are you at the factory there, John?
Well, I'm from a secret location. I don't want to disclose. I will say, though, be prepared for this connection to get worse, in which case I'm going to call back. So I'm warning listeners ahead of time. Can we talk about the popularity of the show real quick before we go any farther?
Yeah, let's hear it.
Because I get emails, from customers every day, and not a day goes by now where I don't get an email from a customer commenting on the Hammer Factor. In fact, if you were an outside observer, you would think that's what I am known for. It's the Hammer Factor. And IR is something that I'm doing just on the side to kill time in between episodes.
Well,
and Geltman evidently got pinned at the North Fork by various people. He was in a bar pontificating, I'm sure, people approaching him for his opinion on various whitewater issues and gear tips and gear choices. He was in court, and people go over and ask for the Hammer Factor. And if I understand correctly, you were telling people to basically line up for autographs, that they had to form an orderly line and have their $20 ready, cash out.
Cash and checks, Geltman. Man. So what was the conversation when you were cornered? Were they like a 204 paddle or a 200?
Were they like, you suck, everything you
you guys are all idiots. I hear one more thing about sup to start.
Dude, I had
research.
I had a killer session on the sup board on Sunday for Father's Day. We'll get into that later.
Good shit. Yeah. That's definitely going to come up because we have the New York Times is validating this argument, by the way.
Yes.
The white lady.
Lots of sup in this episode.
The gray lady. What do they call it? The gray lady.
The gray lady?
New York Times.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm geeking out.
Well, it's going to be an awesome show because we have both a lot of sup and the North Fork Championship all combined into one show. So exciting.
Right.
So if you want to scare yourself stupid or bore yourself to tedium, we've got both sides of the spectrum covered today.
There's a whole genre of podcasts to put people to sleep now where you plug them in and they sort of ramble on, you go to sleep. And we could be falling slowly into that category.
Oh, God, you may be right.
Just listen to the sweet, dulcet the tones of John Grace discussing SUPing on the French Broad.
I can't wait to see when James is going to add the SUP class to the North Fork race.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to open that segment off with. All right, Lewis. Zinke recommends Bear's ear reduction. What's going on? We spent money. We're not seeing anything.
That's right. I can't speak for Adam. I want my money back. John Grace wants his non-existent contribution back.
Yeah.
We're not happy about this. What are you guys doing?
I thought you were into Zinke. He was like your man.
Zinke.
That's why I understood it.
That's the way it was conveyed on this show.
Basically, the money goes from me to Zinke's pocket, and this is taken care of.
I'm just gonna have to go to the pain cave on all this today, huh? Zinke. Man, as you guys may have noticed, it's a pretty low bar for members of the Trump organization come federal government. He's not crazy, which is the bar right now. He's not on our side. He's, somebody who's been pretty deeply in bed with the fossil fuel industry for a long time. He's a Westerner. He has some affinity for public lands. He's not the worst of the worst over there, I still believe that. I think that he is, somebody you can work with. I don't think he's has our best interests at heart by any means.
Well, let's catch up. And what exactly happened? We're Outside Magazine did a little piece on this. That's what Grace and I read. But what's the whole story now?
So, Bears Ears in southeastern Utah is a huge area with like a ton of really important significance for the some of the Indian tribes down there. Like a ton of antiquities and cultural resources. Super important area. These groups have been lobbying for years to have a national monument designated down there to protect, in part, against energy development, but also a lot of sort of like looting of cultural artifacts that has been going on down there. It also includes the San Juan River, which is like a pretty nice, like class 2 kind of float trip, I think. And like more significantly for outdoor recreation, some like really, really premier climbing areas like Indian Creek, which I think is, I'm not a climber, but it's a iconic area. So, for years, the Utah delegation, which is kind of the congressional delegation, which are, those guys are some of the most extreme opponents of public lands protections, led by this guy, Rob Bishop, who's the chair of the House Natural Resources Committee. There's actually a really good profile of him in Outside like 2 days ago that is worth a read. But he worked for a couple of years on this big package of kind of public lands issues in southeastern Utah that he was calling the Public Lands Initiative, and it would have created some new wilderness, some national conservation areas, and then also some zones that would have prioritized energy development. Done some land exchanges with the state of Utah. And, it was this big thing that he was working on to try and kind of address a bunch of land management issues down there for a couple of years. And he ultimately included some stuff in there that was basically just non-starters, like things that were really like undermining the integrity of the Wilderness Act and, public participation. But, as part, and so this, his proposal ultimately never made it out for a vote at the end of the last Congress. So, he was working for a long time to try to craft some sort of compromise solution for public land protection in southeastern Utah, and the Obama administration held off on doing anything on Utah until these guys basically had every chance to work this out. And, he couldn't get this thing up for a vote. And so because the need to do something to protect these areas was really pressing at the end of the administration, he designated this national monument. And the boundaries of the national monument very closely track the national conservation areas and wilderness areas that were proposed in Bishop's PLI. So even Rob Bishop, who's one of the biggest, opponents of protected public land, agrees that something very closely resembling this boundary deserves some form of permanent protection. So this was not some, 11th hour thing that the Obama administration did. There are a lot of good reasons why this happened at the end of the administration. And, there was, voluminous opportunities for public participation in developing this thing. The Secretary of the Interior went out to Utah. We shared tons of maps with Department of Interior and the Council for Environmental Quality, which is kind of the White House's environmental advisors. Tons of meetings, with climbers, with all sorts of folks. This was something that was not developed like behind closed doors or just in secrecy. There was, massive amounts of public participation in the development of this thing. So nevertheless, I think that what Bishop wanted was to have, these conservation areas be part of some sort of trade-off for areas that were going to get, prioritize energy development or, some sort of bad things that he wanted to cram through, and he wanted to use the need for protection for this area as leverage to get those things. So instead, we just got the conservation piece without the energy development stuff that he wanted. And so he's fired up about it. Everybody in Utah hates Barack Obama or whatever. And so these guys are like, this is the height of tyranny. We have to roll back this national monument. And, between the power that these guys have in Congress and their connections with the energy industry, somehow they've managed to get the ear of the Trump administration on this thing. And Zinke announced that they were going to do this review of national monuments going back to 1996. And the reason they went back to 1996 is there was another kind of controversial monument designation.
They're about to throw up. You all right?
I got the bells too loudly in the middle of that. The middle of my soliloquy. So in the Clinton administration in 96, he designated Grand Staircase Escalante, which is another national monument in Utah that was also controversial. I can't really speak to the specifics of the development of that.
What's going on,
Yes,
Lewis?
hearing that sawing. Somebody's out my driveway running a bandsaw.
Super professional.
Oh, this is our closing episode of the Hammer Factor.
Right.
Here, yes,
Well,
hang
thank
on
everybody.
for a second so you can edit this out. Hang on. Oh, there we go. So the reason he went back to 1996 is he wanted to be able to sort of go after that monument also potentially. And the announcement was that they were going to review monuments going back to 1996 that were over 100,000 acres or that they deemed to have had inadequate public participation in their development. So that means basically any national monument going back to 1996.
And so, this small area bears ear that he said, do you think this is really something they're trying to do? Or is this a kind of a token gesture to say that they're going to battle? I mean, is this a long uphill fight for them to actually roll back the designation of this land? Is it, where are we at in the process?
It's unclear to me what these guys are actually going to do, because if they really do try to make changes, very significant changes to the boundaries of Bears Ears, or eliminate it just through executive authority, it's exceedingly unclear that they have the legal authority to do that, and they're going to get sued, and it's not clear that they're going to prevail on that at all. It's going to become a big legal fight, immediately.
Huh.
I mean, much
Why, since that's Hood River, and you have a guy in your yard making that rack, and I'm picturing Theo Berman shirtless with jean shorts with a circular saw, like a boat rack in your yard. That's what I'm picturing goes on over there in Hood River.
Yeah, that's probably not that far from the truth. Hang on for 2 seconds, all right? I'm going to close the windows. Put something up here. Can you,
I'm leaving this in.
Thanks,
I'm recording a kayaking. I'm recording the Hammer Factor. You've heard of it. It's like a structure. He's like, hell yeah. All right, sorry.
Sorry, boys.
Yeah.
Were you like, hey, Hammer Factor, you ever heard of it? Well, guess what? What's going on in here right now? Thank you.
Pretty much.
So where were we at before the racket there?
Well, what did Zinke do? I mean, what's the latest news on this? He said he's going to.
He announced that he's going to recommend rolling back, or he's going to recommend boundary changes, but there were no maps, no specifics of what they were going to actually roll back. So there is some precedent for minor boundary adjustments, but that's not the impression of what they're, that's not the impression they're giving of what they're planning to do. So we're kind of going to wait and see. They did extend the comment period for Bears Ears to the middle of July, along with the rest of the national monuments that are under review. So if you haven't fired up a comment yet, please do so. One
does this,
at the same time,
does this fall into the executive? Does this fall into the executive order category where if Zinke suggests it, Trump could just like, that's it, it's done? Or we passed that window already?
That's what they're going to try to do, presumably, but it's not clear that they have the legal authority to do that. I mean, I think we've already seen plenty of examples of the Trump administration throwing out these executive orders and them immediately getting challenged in court, and the people challenging them prevailing, right? I mean, like the travel ban is a perfect example, right? I mean, it's just not clear that the things that he's trying to do, he has the legal authority to do them. And I mean, it's also, I think, becoming increasingly clear that, the Republicans in Congress don't really have their shit together, and the Trump administration does not have the wherewithal to work with Congress, particularly in a bipartisan fashion, to accomplish things. So they're just trying to kind of, make these big unilateral symbolic gestures. And, that's kind of the only play we've seen them run so far, right? I mean,
so along the same lines, Washington Post this week, or today, I guess, did an article on the new secrecy of both lawmakers and the administration, where it's, obviously the healthcare bill is the most obvious one, but you have policy changes being made at the EPA, you have lawmakers able to make requests to administration list their committee heads, cameraless press briefings, the guest logs at the White House are now, under wraps, tax returns aren't being released. How hard is this making your job harder to get this stuff done? I mean, are you seeing this in what you do?
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, I mean, it is very hard to sort of get a window into what's going on at Interior and, the Forest Service. Forest Service didn't have or the Department of Agriculture didn't have a secretary until, just a few weeks ago. It seems like it's still sort of a ghost ship over at Interior, and that there's just not a lot of people working there who are, political appointees at this point, because Trump hasn't nominated, hundreds and hundreds of, kind of sub-cabinet level positions that require Senate confirmation yet. We're definitely hearing rumors about things going on at Interior that are, a little bit disturbing, but, I think in terms of, what the agencies can do without, without public process, without going through rulemaking under like the Administrative Procedure Act, where there's opportunity for notice and comment and things like that, their ability to do things sort of just on a whim are kind of circumscribed, I guess. With Congress, I think that the public land stuff has been somewhat on the back burner compared to these other big things that they're trying to work on. But yes, I mean, I think that the stuff you're pointing out is, it's disturbing just from a democracy standpoint, right? I mean, it's like, what are these guys like? How do you justify any of that? It's it's like, if you guys feel good about the work you're doing, if you're think that people like the course of action you're proposing, you're not going to do it, as clandestinely as possible. I don't know, it's disturbing, right?
So what when something like this comes up, Lewis, what do you and your team do? Does this change your course of action, what you're working on? Do you devote more resources to something like this? How do you pick your battles? All this stuff.
Like for Bears Ears or for
Bears Ears in particular.
Stuff? Well, I mean, that was a big campaign that we were working on through, the last 2 years of the Obama administration, I would say. I mean, I think that once that proposal came out, we would look, if there's a proposal for some sort of protections, we're going to look really carefully and see, what the recreation resources are in that area, whether this is something that's, a priority for our member organizations and our members. So, Bears Ears is a priority for us because there are these really premier climbing resources there. And, the climbers want to make sure that, if there are protections for these areas, that they're developed in a way that's mindful of climbing, basically. And, there is some paddling down there, there's some mountain biking. And so it was something that, we would kind of have that conversation with the policy professionals at all of our member organizations, like, AW, IMBA, Access Funds.
Did Outdoor Retailer early on play a factor in you really latching onto this issue? I mean, it seems like because Outdoor Retailers in Utah, this issue, which I don't know how unique it is, but it got a lot of press in the outdoor industry, and suddenly everyone in the outdoor industry seems to know about this issue. And I know, I mean, you cannot touch Outdoor Retailer right now without hearing about this in some capacity.
Yeah, I mean, I think a big part of that was just Patagonia. I mean, this was something that they had made a big priority out of, and they did a big campaign around it. And those guys obviously carry a lot of weight in the outdoor industry. But I mean, for us, and that's not really a part of the calculus. I mean, I think that we're good partners with Outdoor Industry Association, and I think if there's something that's a priority for them, we'll certainly give that a hard look. But
I mean, to your benefit, I think this became a high-profile issue because of Outdoor Retailer.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. You guys picked the right horse there.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot going on in Utah, right? I mean, it's kind of ground zero for this state takeover of public lands idea. There's a lot of premier recreation resources there. There's just, a lot of
retailer show.
Yeah, and Outdoor Retailer.
Well, take a tip from Adam Natarian. Donate some money to Outdoor Alliance. You guys are doing awesome work. Thanks, Lewis. Heavy stuff, man, dude. You're you got bulletproof vests over there. I mean, it is going on, man. You guys got your work cut out for you.
I mean, what do you do every day, Grace? You over there curing leukemia? I mean, what's going on over there?
Dude,
what have you done today?
I just develop a bunch of content.
Gelton was up at 5 this morning preparing white papers.
There is
monographs.
How's the white paper coming?
Briefings.
Pretty good, man. Almost there.
Sick. All right, should we move on to our
this thing up one of these days when we can talk about it?
Yeah,
you guys aren't bored to tedium by it all at that point.
No, not at all. Should we move on to our special guest James Byrd, organizer of the North Fork Championship?
Yeah, let's
see if I can get James in here.
I think James is the organizer of this event, so we're gonna get a glowing review of the event. It is a spectacular event, no doubt. But afterwards, Gelman, I want to get your behind the scenes.
I mean, I have nothing but good things to say either. I'm just so blown away by the whole thing. James's organization, paddling, just all of it, man.
James, you there?
Yeah. How are you?
Oh, look at this on video.
Yeah,
James,
you got it all figured out. James, welcome to the Hammer Factor. Thanks for coming on.
Dude, thanks for having me.
All right. Well, let me start off. I know I spoke with you early on before there was a North Fork Championship, and a lot of people know what the North Fork Championship is, but briefly kind of introduce yourself, give the history of the event and what it is.
Yeah, right on, man. And pretty crazy chatting again 6 years ago about it. First of all, I apologize for my voice, dude. The parties just destroy it in the bars, the yelling the whole time, and my voice got pretty wimpy. So let me know if I need to repeat anything. trying to make it tougher. But
you actually sound better than I was expecting.
nice.
I mean, I'm just surprised how clear your internet connection is in Idaho compared to West Virginia.
Well, good. I need all the help I can get on that. How's it going, Lewis?
Good, man. Feeling recovered from the weekend. You?
Getting there, dude, but only on the up and up. So I'm stoked. Really cool chatting with you a long time ago. And you being an event organizer, what is it, the 22nd year now with the Green Race?
Yep, 22nd.
Super cool, man. Definitely inspired with energy from events like that and stuff. But you called and were like, hey, man, there's going to be controversies. There's going to be crazy things, but just stick to your gut. Do what you want to do. It's your race. Make it happen how you want to make it happen. And that was just good energy in a sense of like, see through what you want to see happen. And man, having it be the 6th year, it's finally where we dreamed of for sure. But basically it's an event just north of Boise, Idaho. Really big population in Boise, but it's like probably 40 to 50 miles north of that on a river called the North Fork of the Payette. 3 different sections of it, a qualifier race, boater cross race, and then kind of the main event on the Marquee Rapid Jacobs Ladder and the golf course. We start the weekend out with a film and a photo festival in Boise, and then kind of move it up to the weekend for the rest of the weekend and camp and paddle. Super fun.
And so, real quick before we get into some other questions, a lot of boys from around here all say you should go out to North Fork race, and they say, well, we don't want to race Jakes, but there's a lot more to the event than just racing Jakes, correct?
For sure, man. That's kind of like anything you like headline stuff of like the most dangerous event in the world and stuff like that. It's like catchy and those terms get the big eyebrows, but man, there's the South Fork of the Payette. There's so many other rivers to paddle. There's a couple different sections of the event. It's just why we have those so people can race and paddle with these pros, but not necessarily have to be on Jakes. Big time, man. Everyone's invited, and especially East Coasters. Yeah, stoked on that.
To me, that's like such a cool thing about like going on a paddling trip to the North Fork is it's just like right there in just the tightest circle. There's everything from like you can go run the main with somebody who's been paddling for a week and it's just like fun big water class 2 to class 3-4 on the South Fork to, you know, kind of 4+ 5- on the bottom 5 to like the best paddlers in the world scaring themselves stupid. And it's like you can all just like camp in the same place and everything is just like put-ins and takeouts are all the same and it's all like right there with just awesome car camping. And, you know, you can just go up there with like the most mixed ability level group and like everybody's gonna have an awesome time. And like to me that was like one of the things. I mean, there's a lot that was just sick this weekend, but I feel like the race itself has always been badass and it was even more badass this year with the high water. But I feel like just everything around the race is really like coming to its own. Like it's got to be the only kayaking race where, you know, if you have no interest in racing, it's still going to be just like an awesome time, like awesome river festival. Like you're not going to be like over it just because you're not racing Jakes.
I feel like that race reached some kind of critical mass this year because I heard more talk and buzz about that event than ever by magnitude of 10 this year. I mean, people were talking about that race months ago and leading up to it. And Kara was on the website reading all the bios and following the race. You know, she'd never done anything like that before. So something's working, you know.
Finally.
So give us some behind the scenes. And these things interest me specifically because I've been a part of some event directing. What were your thoughts leading up to it with the super high water? I think we were hovering at close to 6 grand for a while before the race. What did you work something out with the dam operators? How was that? How'd you handle that?
Man, it just came to the forefront with everything. Event organization. There's a million balls in the air that you're trying to keep going and kind of triage them most appropriately with the time accordingly. And every year it's something, dude. And I knew having the race course on that rapid that's going to happen. We're going to have high water on it. But that was kind of my dream too, was like that river in its true nature with these amazing paddlers there to showcase the sport, not to do it loosely, but to showcase it. And So I wanted to do that, and I wanted to do that well, but I wanted it to come from the riders. So we had a bunch of meetings about how they were feeling it and if they were feeling it and just the intensity of it and if they wanted to race it, because at a certain point in the race, I need to start planning to make it happen. We can't just Saturday morning change the event from Jake's to like S-turn because the kayakers don't want to do it that morning. I can't move a couple thousand people from the side of the road and move them up to the side of S-turn. It just doesn't work. Everything on the highway is permitted for those times. On Saturday, there's 17,000 cars that drive by there that I've talked to the Idaho Transportation Department just to kind of get numbers for mass gathering safety and stuff. And so the big thing before the race was to try to get that permit for S-turn to see if people wanted to not do it. Then we'd try to get the ramp up there. We try to move everything to S-turn and trying to talk to the dam operators and the water master and all that stuff, which I tried to talk to them all year about more water, and because we've always been low water at the North Fork. So not big changes or anything, but like just start good conversations with them for in the future. So basically, Highwater Man was complete priority. Not that it always hasn't been safety, but Highwater just notched it up, and I really just wanted to work closely with the athletes and see if they're feeling it, if they're going to start pushing it, and yeah.
So Geltman, how hard is Jake's at this water level? Like, give us an idea of what kind of rapid we're talking about. And it's it's a slalom course through this thing, right? I mean, that's the nut of this particular aspect of that race.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I don't know. To me, looking at it, it was just like a touch under 4,000 this year. I think, in the past, it's been between probably 18 and 2,500. And it's just like, it's probably like 3/4 of a mile long of whitewater. That's the course, a mile long. And it's just so continuous and so big. And like any, kind of 75-yard section of it would be, pretty stout, but like approachable. But it's just like that for 3/4 of a mile.
Right.
But like when you look at it at that level, like to me, looking at it, it's sort of like everything is super, super intimidating, but there aren't that many places where you're like, you cannot be there. It's sort of like you're probably going to be called upon to do some dealing. You might find yourself upside down in a place where you really want to roll up very quickly, but it's not like there's a bunch of horrible hazards that you need to avoid. It's sort of like the continuousness of it is the hazard. I don't know. Do you agree with that, James?
Oh man, no, you're awesome. I think I think you nailed it in a sense on parts of the rapid where you're going probably 30 plus miles an hour. Even on the lower course, I was setting the course next to Gerd on the river, and he wasn't really paddling, going like 23 miles an hour. So I would roughly guess it's like 30 miles an hour. So that's definitely a hazard. And the high water makes the hydraulics just super violent. But Lewis, we shortened the course because of the river wide hole at the bottom, and it is just insane, like a 12-foot drop with like 6 feet of water going over it. That's usually the normal finish line, Lewis. I don't know if you.
Oh no, I didn't even go down there.
Dude, that's what gets insane about this rapid at high water. It literally is a river wide catcher's mitt that you can sneak on both sides, but we shortened the course ahead of that. For safety reasons. And usually gate 4, which is an up gate, is now a big ledge hole. Those, and then where the finish line was now was like a haystack wave hole. But those 3 features would 1,000,000% hold you until you did not want to come out. So they are there. But there's just a lot of things kind of going on that increase the danger of it for sure.
There's some rocks in there too. I mean, I saw Fuseli banged up his hand on something. I heard people talking about rocks in there.
No, totally, man. That's the kind of the hardest part about this river is the river bed with the blast drop from the road and highway or the train. But the only thing about Goodwater that is more safe is that it does kind of cushion that out a little bit. And not that we err on that or that it gets safer, but the flow actually does kind of raise you up from the gnarly riverbed a little bit. So that's kind of nice. Yeah.
So, you touched on safety a little bit. I'm sure that with your insurance, you have to have a detailed safety plan turned in before you can get everything and the permits and whatnot. What's your philosophy on safety for an event like this?
Man, at these high flows, no one's in the water unless you're like live bait tide, which we had a couple of people kind of pendulum them people in above gnarly sections and above that river wide hole after the finish line if people were tired. And at Rodeo Hole, we have live bait there as well. But like this year, we usually have kayaks on the course. We didn't have any kayaks on the course until the very bottom, just because no matter how good of a kayaker you are, you're not going to be having someone on your boat on Jake's and golf course. Like no one should be doing it.
Yeah.
We did switch it up a little bit on things like that, but we rally just like people that paddle it and locals that paddle it that might not necessarily want to race it, that are incredibly good paddlers that help out with safety. But this year, to bolster it up a little bit, we did hit out some social media help, and man, we got doctors that were certified and a bunch of kayakers that were certified that just rallied on, that just bolstered it even more and more and more. So it was like super sick to have that, and everyone had a good time, to where I think we'll just kind of maintain that regardless of water flow.
Very cool. Yeah, I know for Green Race, we have like 16 on-water people, and then we have the EMS crews there. But a big thing that I've always been a proponent of is all of the racers have their ropes with them every day, and so, or all the time when they're out there. And so, you know, you have that crew that maybe didn't quite make the cut to race Jakes and whatnot, but I'm sure they're all there ready to spring into action.
Super cool, man. And at competitions at this level, you think that there would be ego and stuff and an X amount in kayaking, but really you've seen it, not much, man. And people are so down. If they're not racing it, even if however they got into the categories, they're like so cool to help hold the bag and be there to help out. It's just really cool. And we need it. The other thing I wanted to touch on safety is we have all the people in the safety, but we also have an ambulance. And then Air St. Luke's hosts their helicopter at our event, which would be the working in a hospital would be the number one thing we would need if we had a blunt force trauma, flush, swim down the river type event. So feel pretty fortunate on that, just from get them to the hospital quick, because we are out there a little bit.
Well, man, give us a quick wrap up here of the race. Tell me about some of the standout athletes. Just give us the rundown.
Yeah, right on. Man, the water was $6,000 and it dropped to $3,000. So I was thinking that there would just not be as many expert qualifier racers, and I was just like, all right, it's just gonna be a smaller year. And our thing was, if you're not practicing, you're not racing. I don't want to have people probing the course or probing the ramp if they haven't been on it. Not to incentivize racing, but to incentivize good judgment and not to be loose. But damn, dude, we usually have like 100 racers in the qualifier, and there was 83 this year. So people are just like, they're paddling well and doing a good job, even though it kind of got more gnarly. Really cool seeing Gerd come back and win the qualifier, dude. He's been out hurt and injured, and I've had a bout of injuries to know that it's frustrating and hard to come back and go as hard as you can. It was really cool seeing Gerd strong again. In the qualifier, the Boatercross was really cool, man. More participants than we've ever had. I think Estern's a super sick course for that, and people really enjoyed it. But Dane was so impressive there, dude. He won every single heat. He was good energy the whole time, and just as far as like, just in incredible shape, you know. He crushed the race and then just come be good energy around and win every single heat, and then won the finals. And it was crazy. We make a bracket, and so you can see the heats, and each heat was just so stout, but it just got more and more stout until the finals, and Dane just kept winning it, which is super impressive. And he repeated in that, as well as the Jakes race. And the big kind of thing for me with the Jakes race was, again, dude, it's what I dreamed of what it would just look like on a pure like aesthetic level of like, man, we don't count numbers and it's kind of hard to, but man, I would at least say 1,000+ people there. People hiking in from parking their cars, had to hike 20 minutes along the highway, which is good that nothing went wrong, but stoked for the growth that we had. But man, just how the race went down, the setup that it is, kind of the stage for these athletes to go and compete at that level was really neat to see. And and scary for every single paddler. Every single paddler told me that. It went from terrifying to scary after 6 grand to 3 grand, which is awesome. But everyone was scared. But man, what happened? And I've been fortunate enough to be part of a national championship football team and just watch competitions at a high level. When people stop worrying as much about the scariness of it and the danger, and they start competing. What happened the second round, man, you saw what people saw the winning run, and they knew they had to beat it. And, dude, they just started lacing the course. It was crazy. It was so athletic and impressive and exactly what I dreamed of that it was awesome, man. And then when the last person made it down safe, it was just like, it was super, super.
I bet you felt good.
Holy shit, dude. I was so stoked, man.
Oh, big congrats.
Thank you, dude.
Yeah, seriously, man. It was next level. It was really cool to see. Just like the level of paddling was so high. I mean, just to go out and run that rapid at that level to me is a big deal. And to see, the runs that people were putting down, like with that level of precision is just super, super impressive.
Dude, totally, man. It just reconfirmed to me that this shit's not loose and that these paddlers are that good, and they just performed. It was really cool to see have it happen.
Well,
and it's just cool to see, just to see the bar raised, right in front of your eyes, for it to go from the night before the best paddlers in the world being deep breath, this is scary, to seeing, being like, I don't, God, man, I don't know if I want to run this right now, and just kind of sweating it, to seeing by the end of the next day, seeing 20 or 30 super, super, super high quality runs. It's to me that just sort of opens people's eyes to what's possible. And
dude, completely.
Really, you just see progression in just such a short amount of time. And that's a pretty unique thing. I don't know. It's cool.
It was insane. You could see it, dude. You could see them paddle so hard into Jake off the rim. You're like, what in the hell is going on? And then Rodeo Hole was kicking everyone's ass the first round. And then, dude, the last 12 people just didn't even get their bow wet, dude. They were just on it, sprinting through Jake's, everything, really cool, man.
Well, good.
It's a cool thing about competition. I mean, I feel like this is kind of a smaller scale example of this, but the right side of the spout on Great Falls in the Potomac, you remember, when we were kids, you thought that if you ever went over there, you were going to die. Mm-hmm. And then somebody kind of figured out that you could run it, and it was still this super scary thing. And then the Great Falls race came one year, and there was this realization that if you wanted to win that race, you had to run that line because it was just that much faster. And over the course of a day, this line that had been run maybe a dozen times suddenly got run 100 times. And it just, everybody's eyes opened, and it was the whole thing was just never the same after that, because everybody was just that's it now, and it's sort of, I don't know if the same thing is really possible on highwater jakes like that, but it was, to me, just sort of similar.
Class 3+ now.
and
Idaho class 3+, easy 4.
But just sort of the ability of an event to push the sport in that way is, I don't know, it's cool to see.
You're right, man. And we do get a hard rap sometimes on that it's loose and not smart. And I haven't seen a ton of the social media yet because there's no damn internet or cell service up there the entire time, which is kind of awesome, but kind of funny too. But there definitely is people that are not stoked on it. And I think that from an event organizer / everyone that paddles kind of at that level saw it and saw that, hey, it's been risen. And it doesn't take away from the seriousness of it, even at the Great Falls, that move, but people know it now and they're able to do it, and it's risen. So it's really cool to see.
What's the negative? What are people saying who are giving you grief about this?
Again, I haven't looked a ton into it, but I think the quick thing that I saw was that people are doing this for entertainment over at the risk of lives of others, and they've probably been in personal contact with the people that have been hurt on that river, which I totally get it. I totally understand. There's nothing more important than that. But the way we drive it from an event standpoint is we want the athletes to make the call. And if they feel safe doing it and they feel like they want to do it, then that's something we want to showcase.
There you go.
I like it.
Man. I think you do a really good job of walking that line, man.
It's not easy, dude. A lot of. You got a big monkey on your back there, man.
Yeah, no, man, it's definitely something we're constantly working with, but also trying to create a good game, format moving forward. Kind of with the whole entire thing. But a couple people were there this year that have worked at Red Bull Rampage and Nitro Games and X Games and stuff, and just kind of stoked to get them involved and kind of just also pick their brain on just that risk, that how you can be set up, how you can do the best you can to make it happen, but showcase it well. And yeah, feeling good about it, but it's definitely always there, man, and always on my mind for sure.
I think after this year, next year, you better get ready for 100% growth rate in that event. That's going to become the new green race.
Oh man, no, green race will always be the green race. Dude.
It's like the new standard, though. Like if you're going to do an extreme race, you got to go to the North Fork. So like every second year raft guide and Ohio Pile's coming out there next year. Get ready.
Everyone's invited. No, nothing but love for our sister events, dude. Green Race, the Big Fork Whitewater Festival has been going on for 43 years. It's just so cool to see the community and the energy and the people, and that's what this whole thing's about too. It's like people from all over the world coming together, and I give Kayakers shit all the time for being late and being and like chill and stuff, but it really is a good approach to life, and this area is a really good place to like enjoy that, and yeah, it's really cool.
Well, man, big congrats and thanks for coming on the Hammer Factor, James.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks for having me, John.
All
and
right.
John,
Yeah.
it's good to chat with you guys.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. That's great.
Congrats,
See you,
man.
Thank you guys. We'll be in touch.
There you go. That's
There you
pretty
go.
rad.
So what do you think? I think the North Fork is the new premier whitewater race in the United States.
Yeah, I'd probably say that.
I would have said that. I would have said that 2 years ago, but I'd say it now.
Yeah.
And it wasn't because of high water. I felt this building all year.
Yeah. Well, it's an incredible event. I mean, I just love the giant slalom format. Remember when I tried to pitch the giant slalom to you, Weld, and you said I was bastardizing slalom?
No, I never would have said that.
I remember when you put that whole series of races on. I thought that was the raddest thing ever, man.
It was,
I mean,
man.
to me, that was like what James did with the North Fork race. I mean, to me, that was like my dream when I was like 18, 20, 25 years old, because slalom, like traditional slalom, was just moving more and more towards these flat, lame, artificial courses. And you just wanted to like see the progression of the sport into something that was, I don't know, like more spectacular, more connected with river running. Just like, I don't know, I think just coming from that background growing up with like kind of a mix of river running and slalom, it's like that's what I always wanted to see. And like, I mean, I don't think that in my mind it was ever going to be Jacob's Ladder at 4,000, but
Well, when we did
so whitewater and like those races put on were sweet, man.
Yeah, when I did that first giant slalom series, number one, it was a big success. All those events went off really well. What really killed that series was it was 2008, and in 2009, I mean, the whole economy crashed, and it was a big effort putting the whole thing on, and like, it was just, I mean, it literally came down to, wow, here we are in 2009. Everybody wants to do this series again, but I just did not have, I didn't have the resources to make it happen, to make it happen again. So I just love it that there's a giant slalom on the Little White now, and I love it that there's one out on the Payette. So it was not all for naught.
Visionary.
Hey, let's talk about the New York Times article on SUP.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
Fill us in on this article, and then I'll chime in, John.
It's actually a really good segue, because we can talk about the role of these governing bodies in the stagnation of sport as part of this conversation.
Right.
Why
This
don't you go
will
ahead
be
and get
compelling
us
for so many people.
Oh, I forgot to ask James
So,
when he was
you're-
adding the SUP division. to the Norfolk Championship.
New York Times did this article saying that the Court of Arbitration for the Sport, I don't know what that is or what. I'm guessing it has something to do with the Olympics.
Yeah, what is that? You should ask Kara what that is. What is that?
Well, I'm just going to go on a limb and say it's the Olympics. But basically, surfing and the international, NSA, which is National Surfing Association, and the ICF, International Canoe Federation, are fighting over a chance to call SUP their own sport. And with the Olympics, they want more events for their sport, right? So having another paddle sports event would be a good thing for paddle sports, and having a surfing event would be a good thing for surfing. And so they take this to arbitration. And oddly enough, they both are dying to get a piece of this. I would say surfing could have it. I mean, that'd be my opinion. They could take it. But no one's listening to me.
Well, I mean, it seems like if it goes to the Olympics, it's going to be a format much more analogous to like sprint kayaking, right?
Well, the thing is, so I remember, when Kara was vying for the Olympics, I remember it was a big deal because you have these premier Olympic events like track and field, and they have a certain number of medals that they're allotted every year for the Olympics, and track and field is the biggest one. It's the most traditional Olympic sport. But when whitewater became part of flat water, when whitewater was introduced to the Olympics, it was a real problem because it was starting to get close to the number of medals that track and field had, which is a no-no. So they started paring back events from paddle sports, and I think that's when what did they do? They got rid of some events, right? Didn't they?
I mean, there's not that many. I don't know.
Anyway, but you start looking at flat water events, with the K4 1000 and K4 4000. It goes on and on and on and on. So it's some kind of Olympic issue. Maybe next week Kara can address this more. I'm sure she knows more about it than I do.
I just think it's all so parochial and so it's just like these old white men in Europe who live in Lucerne or something and want a piece of this action, and whatever they get their hooks into, it's just going to be endless stagnation. It's like having just
I mean, my theory has long been that the Olympics killed whitewater slalom in the United States.
That's been
my closely held theory.
I completely agree.
Yeah. My take on this is the Olympics, number one, has lost credibility completely when they took wrestling out of it. So, as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't even really exist
Wrestling
anymore.
is in the Olympics, isn't it?
No,
they have Greco-Roman wrestling.
No, it's back. They talked about cutting it, and then
they did cut it, and there was a huge uproar. It was on the chopping. Actually, they didn't cut it, but it was on the chopping block. But to even put that sport on, anyway.
No, I totally agree. It's ridiculous, man. The Olympics are.
But back to who should get SUP, surfing or paddle sports. I'm going to say paddle sports, and here's why. Because every surfer I know poo-poos on the paddleboarders out there in the lineup or being around or whatever. They don't even want them on the beach. Now all of a sudden they do want them on the beach. What's up with that? And
I think the governing body wants them on the beach. I don't think the actual participants do.
Exactly.
And I think that the people who actually participate in surfing probably roll their eyes pretty hard at the idea of surfing being an Olympic sport too,
Yeah, good point.
Right. I mean, I think the climbers certainly have mixed feelings about it.
But long story short, I surf and paddleboard, and paddleboarding is paddling. It's way more close to when I go kayaking than is surfing. So.
I would guess there's a lot of paddle sport people out there really excited, or paddleboarding people out there really excited about SUP being in the Olympics. And my advice would be careful what you wish for, because it's not super helpful to everybody. That's for sure.
Well said. That's a kind of a catch-22 there.
Oddly enough, along the same lines, we also had Rafa running Outlet Falls in a inflatable crab. Have we all seen this video?
I saw the video, and I think I sent the email. Has the Pacific Northwest jumped the shark? Has it happened, Lewis?
It's jumped the crab.
Is that what it takes to get noticed now? You have to start running the waterfalls on inflatable toys?
This is a big waterfall. This is what, 70-foot waterfall?
Yeah, 70 feet.
70 feet.
On an inflatable crab. I mean,
and he held on to that thing all the way to the end, too. I mean, I'll give him credit.
Yeah. Successful.
I would say, I would pose a question for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a
probably using
thing.
your shoulder.
Everybody's doing it.
Future of the sport.
I heard Confluence is a whole line of inflatable crabs
Yeah.
coming out for 2019.
Inflatable lobsters, the new tuna.
Right. So, is inflatable lobsters, should they be part of kayaking or part of SUP? And I would argue they should be part of SUP.
Okay.
I mean, certainly if you're looking at,
Moving on from
Yep.
that. Do you have an answer? Is that the new
What's that?
thing out there? Are we gonna be seeing more inflatable waterfall running, or is this a one and done thing?
It's been a long secret tradition here in Ohiopyle, going over the Ohiopyle Falls and various
I know some
inflatable
guys-
devices.
Quite a while ago, Celestial Falls out here is actually illegal to kayak. And quite a while ago, some guys went and took pool toys over Celestial as a sort of a protest over this stupid regulation, because it is not illegal to swim over Celestial with a pool toy, but it is illegal to kayak it. So maybe we do have a long history of pool float waterfall running out here.
All right.
Also, Metlaco has been tubed twice now. Rolf Kelly and my buddy Nico, some of his college friends, not even kayakers, went up there and gave her hell.
There you go. Guess that's how you make it now. Can we move on to this creature craft thing? Because this creature craft thing is blowing up and reminds me of my trip to Russia when they had these Ubalinks and they were throwing parachutes out of them to get themselves out of a hole. Does
Right.
anybody know the inside scoop on these things? What is going on?
I'll tell you what it reminds me of is, did you guys have, like when I was in high school in physics class, we had like the egg drop competition where you had to engineer this sort of contraption out of drinking straws and, like a few sheets of notebook paper, and then drop your egg in this structure that you've created off of like a 50-foot building. And if your egg survived, then that was like what your grade was based on, was like how successfully your egg survived this fall. That's what creature crafting reminds me of. Is it's sort of like an engineering challenge to send like some hapless dude down an enormous rapid with no, operation on his own end whatsoever.
Can somebody
I know
read
you guys
this
do-
in the show notes here? Somebody should read this. John, you wrote
What's that?
This Darren
What's that?
Vansel, inventor of the creature craft run Sunset Falls.
Yeah.
And he probably would have been fine if he just hadn't brought the oars. I don't know what he thinks he's doing with those things besides hitting himself in the face with them.
Okay, so if you didn't see the
Right.
video, Darren Vansel, inventor of the creature craft, ran Sunset Falls in a creature craft, along with some other people. I don't know how many others. So Darren
They
heard
said a
it-
dozen. A dozen was the number thrown around.
a dozen others.
I watched
Okay.
the videos on the internet. You guys seen it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Darren ends up in the hospital, has a GoFundMe to pay for his medical costs.
Hey, can I call you on my phone? Because I can't hear anything you guys are saying.
We hear you fine. Let's just go ahead and ride this out. We're almost done. Can you hear that?
All right.
So
I'm feeling marginalized over here.
pays for his medical costs. The question is, where do you begin with that? Where do you begin with that, John, when you were writing that down? What's your thought process there?
All right. Do you remember? You guys don't remember this, but I'm gonna give you a history lesson. Back in the '80s, there was a kind of a kooky guy named Ken Warren who ran these rafting trips. Ken Warren was kind of he was very authoritarian, and he would push these trips that he did to the utmost limits. And he went to run the Tiger Leap Gorge in China, which is on the upper Yangtze, which I think is now underwater, basically from the dam they built there. But he wanted to be the first person to take a raft down the Tiger Leap Gorge. Well, all of a sudden, there was a huge burst of Chinese nationalism, and these Chinese students started building things like the creature craft. They were basically inflatable balls to float down this river. And I guess a couple students were killed doing this. So this is as far as, and then these Polish kayaking teams, who are very reminiscent of these Polish mountaineers who are, doing all these insane first ascents all over the world. They started running all these rivers in Latin America in these handmade inflatable crafts as well, So there is like a history to this, but it's not a sport. I wouldn't call it a sport or anything like that. It's just a guy in a huge inflatable ball running gigantic rapids. and getting beat to death.
What
And now he got knocked on. This guy who did this in Sunset Falls got knocked unconscious, and he was in the hospital for a few days. Now it's a GoFundMe to help pay for his hospital costs. I have yet to see a GoFundMe thing that doesn't give me douche chills. By the way, I mean, it seems like if you have some half-ass thing that you did wrong or screwy, and you pay for it. Like a free, trip to Hawaii for a yoga cleanse or something, you start a GoFundMe site.
Well,
So that's another issue.
I'm just saying, I saw these Russian guys, and they were Uberlinks, and man, they got caught in a big hole, and they threw a parachute out to get them out of the hole.
I heard that was what happened when the guys tried to creature craft Site Z, is they got stuck in that top hole or that eddy on the left, like halfway down for like 15 or 20 minutes, and then eventually had to throw out their like sea anchor to get pulled out. And it was like on the internet, and I think
Was the whole thing covered with vomit? I mean,
I don't know.
It's so weird, dude. It's so weird. It's the weirdest thing, man. Seeing those guys in those, I mean, I don't know. I'm not a fan. I'll just go.
People have kayaked that, right? There was a character named Rob McKibben who ran it in '08, but I don't know. Do you know who that character is? Anybody?
Yeah, he's a legend out here, man. He's like kind of a Tom McEwen type in a lot of ways. He's probably in his mid to late 50s, tough as nails.
Yeah.
Just he's a character, man. Badass.
Have you seen this Sunset Falls in person, or have you guys run this thing?
Yeah, I mean, McKibben's run it. Tyler's run it. Eric Johnson's run it. Yeah, that was where Aniol hurt his shoulder last year. Aniol's fine.
Oh, right.
But it's a serious piece of business.
I didn't run it. I looked at it and I was like, I'm not running that. All right, we can all agree, the three of us, that the creature craft thing needs to just kind of go away.
It's no SUP.
Yeah,
and that's saying a lot from Lewis.
I'm fine with it as long as they're not on GoFundMe asking to be bailed out.
So rank your preferred whitewater craft from between inflatable lobster, SUP, and creature craft.
We'll have our viewers send us viewers. Your questions are creature craft, SUP, or inflatable lobster. Where's the sport going?
Can we throw I'm gonna hold back on this one.
Come on, lay it out there, Will.
No. I'm sick of being that guy.
I think that's the only reason people listen is
maybe.
All right, what we got here on the show notes, we've got Hammer Factor approaches 1,000 subscribers. I don't really even know what to think about that. I look at those stats sometimes and I'm like, really? So
that seems
I think
low.
we deserve more,
in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
It seems low?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, based on the reaction I'm getting, I'm thinking a lot more than 1,000 people are listening to it. The sampling that I'm getting suggests it's a lot higher.
Oh, yeah. That's just that's not the YouTube channel or whatever. That's just the audio subscribers. And then the downloads are way more than 1,000 of each episode. But these are people who, when they turn on their phone on Tuesday morning, it goes, beep, beep, beep. John Wells here to talk to you.
It's like Kara's worst nightmare. Speaking of which, next week is the ladies' show, right?
Yeah, I think. I'm pretty sure we.
Do they have a show lined up? Is it happening?
I'm running the switchboard. It's not up to me, but it's going to be killer.
All right.
I gotta say, I looked at. Well, Grace has made me one of the, I don't know, administrators or whatever of our Facebook page, and I looked at our demographics on there, and it's like
12-year-old, like we're key in the 8 to 12-year-old.
it's 90% dudes. It's like mostly 25 to 35, and the top cities are like White Salmon, Asheville, Pittsburgh, like Morgantown.
All right, okay, it's a sausage fest, is what you're saying.
It's just like unflattering and bizarre portrait of what whitewater kayaking looks like.
I want to see where like Trump
2020.
voters and Hammer Factor listeners, where the Venn diagram overlap.
Tell me zero.
Oh, we're about to jump the shark. All right, rants and raves. Favorite part of the show, everyone. This is where your hosts go off on a little bit of a rant or a little bit of a rave. Would anyone like to start us off? I'll start us off. I'm going to rave about my party brap.
Come on.
I'm not kidding, because my ribs are healed up. I took it out to the green. I had the best time ever. It's just a win-win boat. I kind of think the boat design is done now.
You think this is it?
I don't know. That's just me. What about you guys?
Shit.
How is this the part of the show that we do every week and you guys never have a rant or a rave? You know what? We're just nixing that. We're going to go straight into Dan Hruska's viewer mail. How do you... H-R-U-S-K-A? How would you say that? Hruska? Ruska? Dan Hruska viewer mail. He wants to know from Lewis, what are some common mistakes and misconception? He has a party brap. He can't get it outfitted. What help do you have for him, Lewis?
Oh, boy. Listen, I'm going to sign out. Lewis, okay, can I take a guess what Lewis is going to say? Lewis is going to say you need to whip all the outfitting out, vacuum bag your own foam core seat, hold it to your butt, using your vacuum pump that you have in your backyard, and get 3/16" mini or insulation board and vacuum bag carbon Kevlar on both sides of it to replace your walls, and drill holes in it so your boat is 15 pounds lighter. Thanks, Dave.
Is that close, Lewis?
Any other viewer mail?
That's like the outfitting 202 lesson, but yeah, that would be ideal. I don't know why I was actually thinking about that this morning. I was thinking about ripping the walls out of my boat and taking some composite skin styrofoam walls, but
I can see you doodling on conference calls, like you're just drawing like faux wall designs.
Well, I think we should end it there, fellas. Do you have anything else you'd like to add?
Oh no, I want to hear. Let's hear what Lewis has to say about outfitting his brap, because maybe he has something attainable for the human for a normal boater to achieve here.
Yeah, Dan.
I'll tell you what I've done with, and I've ripped all that carpeting stuff off of the seat, taken out everything except for the plastic seat itself. Mm-hmm. Glued mini cell to that to the back bands, it's like to the plastic. Wrapped it all in duct tape so it doesn't get torn up, and then I like cam strap the back band down to the seat so that it's as low as possible on my back, and then built up foam under my legs so that I'm touching the boat along the seat for as much of the seat as possible. So basically trying to get that, achieve that same effect that like that new Dagger outfitting has where you ratchet up the front of the seat. I'm just doing that with foam. And then the hip pads, I just carved something with, like using a grinder out of, big blocks of mini cell, something that, looks sort of similar to the hip pads that come with the boat, but longer from front to back and much more carve out. So they really wrap over the tops of your legs. And yeah, that's it.
Are you doing anything to the bulkhead?
Nope. I haven't done anything to the bulkhead.
Man, that sounds pretty tight.
Here we go.
Yeah.
How do you trim the seat? Do you get in the boat and move the seat forward or backward?
I do. I don't think I've done anything dramatic with the party wrap. I kind of play around with the boat with the seat when I get it.
What are you looking for? Like, what are you looking for with seat placement?
It's just feel. I think it's hard to tell, like, just based on trim and the water in these modern boats that have so much rocker. I think what I'm looking for is to really keep the bow popping, but to be able to get the stern out of the water when I need it to. I think you want to be paddling, leaning forward all the time. So having, the boat trimmed to the point that you can lean forward without having the bow being like bearing all the time. Like you don't want to have to feel like you're leaning back to keep the bow dry. And then, for overnighters, obviously not a concern with the brat, but for overnighters, I always move my seat forward to kind of retrim the boat. And anytime you do that, when you play with the trim on the seat, you got to move the bulkhead also. Otherwise, you're just moving the seat under your ass and not really changing where you're sitting in the boat. So you need to move the bulkhead forward or back as you move the seat forward or back. And in the past, in some boats, I've actually drilled like an intermediate hole between the holes that are on the track so that I can get a kind of like a finer forward or back adjustment than what the boat comes with.
There you have it.
All right.
And like the first time you outfit a boat, you're going to go paddle it and it's going to like pitch somewhere and you're going to have to go back and grind some foam off or, maybe add something later or whatever. It's not something that you're usually going to get right on the first crack. Like it takes, a few times paddling it and realizing your legs are going to sleep before you're going to get it exactly how you want it.
Can I poo-poo on your outfitting for just a second, Lewis?
Please.
So, man, this is what I don't like about that.
Can I make a suggestion? Can we change rants and raves to just I poo-poo that?
Let's do it. I'm writing it down right now. I poo-poo that.
All right. Because we always poo-poo.
So what do you
rants
do?
and raves are a bit tougher.
So what do you do, Lewis, in winter versus summer? Like when you're wearing a dry suit and that kind of thing, and then when you're just wearing a dry top or whatever, how do you deal with your outfitting then? Do you just
What if you just had a
redo the whole
really
thing?
big lunch? Do you move the seat back or forward?
I'm being serious. How do you squeeze in there when you got all your gear on? And
I don't feel like it makes that big a difference. I guess I usually paddle in neoprene shorts, like under my board shorts, or I do a lot of the time, and so that kind of makes it closer from summer to winter. But, I guess you could always throw, an extra sheet of 1/4-inch foam or whatever over your hip pads in the summer if you're really that particular about it. Are you changing your outfitting from summer to winter?
No, I just leave the normal outfitting in there, but I will adjust shims and whatever from summer to winter.
I bet 80% of my boats I have gotten and sat in them and never made an adjustment in them ever.
God, we have 3 completely different styles of dealing with outfitting our boat. That's awesome. All right, well.
I can't even adjust the foot pegs. Okay, I just let that thing and go. Giddy up.
I envy that, but I can't operate on that level. I remember showing up at the put-in one day for the Little White, and William Griffith shows up, and he has an old broken shell that I've given him that he's excited that he's found a seat for. He's like, check it out, dude, I got a seat. And he takes the seat and crams it into the boat. No bolts, no anything. Yeah, he has a hole in his spray skirt, like the size of like a silver dollar, and then just hops in and runs the Little White at 4.4. I'm like, I would die, man. I would die. I just cannot. I just have nowhere close to the athleticism necessary to paddle a boat with the seats moving and
Well, I would say, Gelman, nothing fits you. We make you dry suits. It's next to impossible making you a dry suit. You're it fits great, except I feel like my ankle is getting brushed against the backside of the cuff. And so could you take off the legs and redesign it, please? It fits perfect, except that when I do happy baby pose, I'm feeling some binding across. I mean, it's not easy.
All right, I'm going to let you guys finish this off the air. Thank you for listening to Hammer Factor. Next week, we got the ladies takeover. Big thanks to James Byrd, everybody for listening. And we're out.